That's not my name. Call me ass. One more time.
You want to know how California got its name? It's not named after some explorer or king. Nope. Someone made the name up.
Wait, you're guilt tripping me, aren't you?
I'm cold.
I can tell. You know how I can tell? Because we're connected.
Knew you'd come, ask Mary. I had a feeling. I said he heard me, and he's ready for a change. This is great. Did you do this? You come in a little hot?
Yeah, I'll meet you in the house.
This is a great place for us to start. I know you don't drive.
Damn it.
See how we tied all that together? You know, there's like a little lead in at the beginning, and then it pays off at the end. So.
And there are themes woven throughout that, psychically by you years ago, that come into play regarding films we will be discussing today.
I didn't even know that.
We meaning I'm Mark.
And I'm Tom.
And we are
the
Cinemaniacs. So we've got a whole bunch to talk about.
Not a huge bunch that people are often used to, but a larger bunch, a banana bunch kind of, I suppose.
And you are working on a razor sharp and robust constitution.
Oh yes, after a wonderful night. We won't get into my my digestive issues and out of what side. We won't even talk about that. So there.
Anyway,
yes.
Shall I?
If you would like to.
On that fine note, let's talk about Disney. Disney/Pixar is back with yet another animated film. Here is the third film in a series so far of 3, if you're keeping score at home, of automotively inclined animated features regarding that which you and I get in and drive around all the time, cleverly entitled Cars 3.
Still plenty of time to come and be served at the refreshment center before showtime.
Hi.
Room resume.
We're just Monday morning quarterbacking on what this movie should have been. So I never saw the original Cars.
Okay.
I am told it's very great.
I liked the original Cars.
We saw Cars 2 on video for this program, and I thought it was not very good. I didn't get into it. So Cars 3, I'm coming in, I'm one shy of the full trifecta as far as these films go. Okay, here's the deal. I didn't see the next movie we're going to talk about, so any extra blabbing I do now will be made up for by me not blabbing about the next one. I went to see this, and it was a matinee filled with kids, and most of the time, you would think it's going to be a madhouse. Most of the time, for me, it's not. I have really good experiences. But this was one where kids were constantly talking and standing up and running around, literally running up and down the aisles. They have the damn light-up shoes, and they are lighting up half the theater. Somebody rolls in behind me with a stroller with a baby who's screaming or making loud noises all the time. And let me tell you, after the third time you've said shh to a kid and they keep doing something, chances are the kid doesn't understand what shh means. A lot of kids who I think were just too little to be taken to see a movie.
Right.
Kids are raised in an environment where you can do whatever you want, and a movie's a thing that's on near you, and when something twinkles, you look at it, or a loud noise, you pay attention to it. Theater's a different thing. People need to train their kids to shut up and watch a movie, and if they can't do that, maybe they should not spend $8, $10, $12 taking their kids to a movie and ruining the experience that I paid for 4 people. So, having said that, I couldn't focus on a heck of a lot of this movie at a time because something was constantly screaming or taking me out of the experience. I don't care about NASCAR. Cars driving in a circle. Some people love it, and that's cool, but I don't care about that. So this movie is basically a NASCAR thing. It's Lightning McQueen from the previous films. Right. And it's a very, I could be rude and say tired, but it's a well-worn path. It's a well-worn tread of somebody who was at the top of their game, but there's a young upstart, and they're starting to show their age, and can they do it one more time? Whatever. Tyler at the theater said it's the Rocky story, basically. It's a Rocky sequel. So that's the story. You get all the characters from the previous films. They even find a clever way to get Paul Newman back in the movie, very, very briefly, but he's there. And it's the world of Cars. It looks gorgeous. There are moments where you see exteriors of the ocean or the woods or something, and you would swear it was a live-action background plate they stuck these animated vehicles into. So it was top-notch that way. I think if you're a fan of the Cars movies, this probably is more of what you like. It propels the story forward, pistons all pumping. If you're a little kid, this probably is more for little kids than anybody older than than that, but at the same time, I have to say, there were little kids there who could not focus on this movie. Now, is that bad parenting? Is that the lack of medication? Or is that the movie's fault? I don't know. But, I guess I would say for the target audience, Cars 3 is probably fine. If I had seen this by myself and was totally focused on it, I probably honestly would have been a little bored with it. So maybe the constant distractions were something that was necessary for me. I don't know.
Right. I liked the first Cars quite a bit. I was not crazy about the second one, so I was not looking forward to going into this. I was struck by a couple of things. One, that no matter what the topic, however, no pun intended, picking up on yours, tired it may be, we've seen it before, Pixar makes movies well. At least. You're right that it's just stunning to look at. There are scenes where we're at a low angle and a car drives by and it's just stunning. The water shots and all of those, it truly does look photorealistic. So that kind of stuff kept me going. The story is very old. One of the things I think that you and I tend to request from clearly kids' films is something for older folks. And this one, for me, didn't really have it. It tried, but when it tried, I think it tried a little bit too hard. For little kids and fans of the Cars stuff, I think it's good enough. They haven't, as you say, or as Tyler said, probably seen the Rocky movies. It's the same story we've seen many, many times. I wasn't expecting much more, so I kind of got what I expected. Not crazy about Cars 3.
Speaking of crazy.
They might be.
These ladies just might be crazy.
Yes. Scarlett Johansson, is it Johansson or Johansson? She never calls me back. And a bunch of her friends decide to have a wild girls' night out for like a bachelorette party, and they hire a male stripper. Trouble is, the male stripper winds up dead, and they can tell that they're going to be in for a rough night.
4, 3, 2, 1, showtime!
Okay, so speaking of nothing super clever and story we've seen a million times before, this is it. This is The Hangover, Weekend at Bernie's, but for the ladies. And I went in expecting that and got what I expected. And I hate to say it, I had a good time. I thought they were fun. I love Scarlett Johansson. The rest of the cast, McKinnon, they're all fun. Couple of them I've seen as supporting actors that I didn't like a whole lot. For some reason, with the bar kind of held low, I had an enjoyable enough time with Rough Night.
I chose not to see this
Okay,
film.
fair enough. I can understand
I'm a big
that.
fan of Very Bad Things, which this looks to be a carbon copy of.
Yeah.
Didn't see it. And I'm tired of movies with repulsive people doing repulsive things for an hour and a half that are comedies.
I didn't think it was that bad.
Okay.
I'm attuned to that.
Because most comedies, I'm like, I hate these people, make them die, make them die.
And I second that, yeah.
So I didn't see this. This was playing on the other side of the wall from me when I saw Cars 3, and I was mighty nervous that there was going to be some bleed through
there could be some
between the
bad
two
bleed through.
films. I was very glad that I never heard anything. So up next, hey, here we go. Let's talk about a film I didn't see, shall we? Naomi Watts stars as a mother who will do anything to help out her son in his quest to help out a neighbor who is being treated very poorly in a film entitled, but not limited to, being legally the Book of Henry.
The crispy, crunchy chip with a zesty, tantalizing flavor all its own.
So, you didn't see this.
I did not. I only found out about what it is today.
I love Naomi Watts. She's one of the actors I'll go see a movie just because she's in it. Sad to say, as we all get older, and I don't get older, do I? Now she's playing mothers and things like that. But she's a real solid actress. This has some interesting twists to it. It's a very bizarre premise.
It sounds odd from what I read.
Yeah, that this kid's neighbor is being held by an abusive stepfather, and he decides that they need to save her, and so she joins with her son and tries to figure all this out. It's a weird mixture of protective mother, detective thriller kind of thing, very atmospheric, shot really well. So it's kind of what you see is what you get. If you find it interesting, if you like Watts, which I do, I ended up finding the Book of Henry, which is very different than the Book of Eli. I thought you could blend some of those together. Mm-hmm. Or Henry. Maybe you missed the shot and you turn into Henry.
Yeah.
I don't know what all those mean. But I thought it was ultimately pretty interesting. So if you have a chance to see that, this will certainly translate very well to the small screen.
And where did you see this?
I saw this at Cinemagic.
Okay, in Hooksett. I mean,
Yes.
there are multiple theaters around. They don't all get everything.
I think I love Latches and everything.
Oh, the Latches is gorgeous.
Seriously. You can only get so many.
The Latches is and not just because they're sponsoring. I'd say this anyway because I haven't taken advantage of the sponsorship yet. You walk through the door. Before you walk through the door, it is gorgeous there. You get the old ticket booth that's out in front of the theater, which is old
fun,
style. The old tile floors. I love it there. So speaking of the depths at which someone will go,
you might go. A couple of ladies decide. I'd love to scuba dive. Looks like great fun. They decide to head off to Mexico where the waters are gorgeous and they're all tropical and temperate. The trouble is, as you're going down in a shark cage and want to look around at some sharks, you don't want to get caught 47 meters down. You really don't, because the pressure, 30 meters down is 1 atmosphere, and the air starts collecting and you have to breathe more. So as you're 47 meters down, then there are sharks down there. The light eventually kind of does filter down, and you can see some things. The shark cage is really only about this big. There's 2 of them in there, and the thing becomes, as you only have so much air, the air eventually tends to run out, and but they have their gauges. Every now and then they'll cut to.
On with the show.
47 meters down.
Really? It keeps going. Now, we always discuss whether trailers are supposed to represent the film or get you into the theaters.
Yes.
So, did you find this representative of, at least, we have an interesting history with this film.
We're going to tell you about it, too. This is actually really interesting. It's something that's never happened to us before on this show. I swear to God, it never happens to us. This film is far less shark-heavy than the advertising would lead you to believe. There's a cool theatrical standee for this. It's like a giant shark mouth that you can stand behind so it looks like you're being eaten by the shark. The trailers all play up the shark. Some other way we saw this played up a shark, not illegally. The sharks are a threat in this movie, but the basic story is these 2 girls go out, ladies, go out on a boat somewhere in Mexico, I don't remember. They're on vacation, and they decide to go down in one of those shark cages, just hanging off the boat, just underwater, so they can see the sharks swim by. And something goes wrong, the cable snaps, and it drops 47 meters down to the floor of the ocean, and they can't get out. So sharks are a threat. It ain't good that they're out there, but this movie is not them zipping Matrix-style dodging shark bullets all the time. It's really about how do they survive with, I think, 1 air tank between the 2 of them, or limited air. They are hosed in this movie, not air hosed either. So here's a little backstory. Why am I telling you? You were here.
I don't know. You tell them.
You knew before they did. So here's the backstory. This film was given to us on DVD. It was going to be a DVD release like a year ago, entitled In the Deep, which was a video title for this film to play off In the Shallows, which we also, at least I think we both quite liked. Like days or a week before we're about to review this film, we get an email from the distributor saying, don't review this, hold all reviews, this movie is going to be given a theatrical release. And then we didn't hear about it for a long time. Well, what they did is they took and they did a 3D conversion on this film, wasn't shot that way, and then they just now put it into theaters as 47 Meters Down, its original title. So we are basing this review on a DVD, fully packaged DVD, mind you, retail copy that we were given like a year ago. So it's just really, it was so wild to have seen this movie, and it's like, yeah, I got it at home on DVD. I really like this movie a lot. This movie, when I heard it was getting a theatrical release, I'm like, yes, it deserves one. It was one of those that goes straight to video for us, and I'm like, this is good enough to be in theaters. It doesn't have mega star power, but it is such a hold your breath, edge of your seat, oh boy, I'm never going to do that. At home, we have a little thing we call the F That Film Festival, and we add certain things. It's like going in a shark cage, F that. So I really like this a lot. Mandy Moore is probably the most recognizable person in the film. It's a tiny cast. It's the 2 ladies and I think 2 guys in a boat, and that's it, and a big shark. It makes you never want to do what they do. It is really, really well done. It's a solid thriller. I'm really happy that it's in theaters. I would highly encourage people to go see this because this is let out little peeps and edge of your seat and find yourself not breathing like the people on the film are not breathing. Now, as a person who does underwater diving and exploration,
and we dive with sharks.
When you watched this, how plausible was this for you?
That's part of what I too like this movie a lot. Not only because performances were good, it was beautifully shot. And it looks like on the post-conversion, they've even sharpened it up even more. It looks really beautiful. So I'm looking forward actually to seeing this again. But as with any film, you're going to find people either who are really involved in whatever the topic is, and I'm not saying I know more than they do, but you're going to find people who know more about the subject than you do, and they're going to be able to pick it apart. Like when Neil deGrasse Tyson saw Titanic, he wrote to James Cameron, well, unfortunately, when Rose was floating on the thing, the stars were wrong. And you know, you're going to find those people who look at those things. So I'm looking at all those things, and these women do exactly what you're supposed to do. And I'm sitting there going, man, if I was down there with my kid, I'd do this, and they do it. So it plays up really well for people who know diving. You're right. What surprised me most about this trailer was, boy, you'd think this was shark movie. And this is not. This is, we're in trouble on the bottom of the ocean movie. We're in trouble on the bottom of the ocean movie. What do you do? Keeps building and building and building in intensity. I remember feeling a little bit cheated at the very end because there's some, it's not psychological mystery or anything, but as things are getting really, really tight, I think the filmmakers, to make it even more and more dramatic, play a little bit with reality. But overall, I thought performances were really solid. I thought as a generic thriller, it was great. And I thought for people who are divers or like the ocean, I thought it was really great. Really ended up liking it.
So we thank our friends at the Latches Theater in Brattleboro, Vermont for sponsoring us, which means letting us get in free. But that's so we can talk to movies about you and not go broke and wear tattered clothes, even though I might be. And now we move on to that which you can find on the home video platform, device, or service of your choice. First of which is, oh boy.
Watch out.
Oh boy. First of which is one of my favorite movies in recent memory. I want to say of last year, but I think it was actually this year. It was not that long ago.
This year, yeah.
Keanu Reeves returns to the role that made him internationally famous as the man who, with nothing but a pencil, can reduce you to somebody's fond memory. This is the action, explosive extravaganza. Oh my God, I loved it. Giving that away. John Wick, Chapter 2.
I'll be there for you. Why take the time?
This movie made me so happy.
Is that right?
It is not for families and those with tender sensibilities.
This is one of those where don't do a shot every time he kills somebody.
You'd be dead. You'd be deceased.
That's right.
It's so it picks up like you could edit the first and the second movie together.
Absolutely.
It picks up like right where the first movie leaves off. Because after the first movie, I'm like, oh, I hope he gets another pet that comes to an untimely end. Because the first film was his wife dies, and she had given him a puppy dog, and that's all he had left of her, and his muscle car, wasn't her, but those were his two favorite things. And these bad guys break in because they want to steal the car, and they kill the dog, and it's a revenge movie for a dead dog.
Right.
This movie is continued revenge, and it goes international this time. Fantastic cast. You get to see Franco Nero, who is wonderfully suave and badass, and in the movie more than I expected, and that was great. I have no fault with this movie at all. Action choreography expertly done. You can see what's going on.
Yeah, shot properly.
Ridiculously brutal and inefficient in its killings. I would love to have somebody tabulate a body count in this movie and a bullet count. It would be totally insane. It's gorgeous to look at. There's some really nice visual set pieces in the film. Hot car action, muscle car action in the first moments of the movie. You might say it strains plausibility, but I would say I don't care. It's an action movie that I can see what's going on, and it made me so happy. It absolutely sets up a third film, which I can't wait for.
Yeah.
This seems to have, the first film was a very, very slight release, and I think it picked up a following on video or home viewing, whatever. And this seems to have done pretty well. So I think we're pretty much guaranteed a third.
Yeah,
I know Reeves is pretty much on board for these. So I would be happy if they made several of these, if they just were able to keep up the, I don't want to say body count, but if they kept up the quality of this film.
Right.
This is easily one of my top, so far this year, one or two, I would say.
I'd agree with that. I'll agree with most of what you have to say. I was ultimately, and this is probably because I'm left, it's not fair to the films themselves, but when you start out with something so unique and unusual, like Guardians of the Galaxy, like John Wick for me, that I'm just bowled over by how clever they are and how much fun they are. I expect the same thing, and John Wick gives me 95% of that. I was left with a little disappointment feeling that you tried a little bit too hard, but that's being really picky about an overall really fun, I mean, check your brain at the door action flick where Reeves is just having a grand old time going around killing people in all sorts of wild and fantastic ways.
It sounds so terrible to be singing the praises
but,
of
this
that.
is clearly a guilty pleasure movie. Shot beautifully, and as you bring up, and I'm much more aware of than I used to be, the action sequences and the fighting sequences shot properly. It's not just edited. My only real complaint about this, and this is super picky, is Lawrence Fishburne. Really? You bring Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne together in the movie again, and I'm sorry, all I can think of is Neo and Morpheus.
And it's funny, that didn't actually occur to me. It took me a little while,
really?
and I'm like, oh yeah, they were both in the Matrix.
That the moment I saw them, it took me out of the movie. I got back in and enjoyed it, and they had to have known, you know, people were going to make that connection. So how about a throwaway line or something for me from that? But
Ask
other
him
than
if
that,
he wants a vitamin or something like that.
yeah, exactly.
I get two of them.
Right. So other than that, yeah, this is, if you like the first one, this is just going to give you more to pour some syrup on.
So this, in a way, you could say, for Keanu Reeves, this was the building block of an entirely new aspect of his career.
In many respects, I'll put the check in the mail for him creating the segue into our next movie, which is in many respects about a lot of blocks. Places are built with a lot of blocks and things like that, and the little guys that run around who inhabit the place. There's one in particular that's going to have to defend you against vigilanteism, maybe sort of even like a guy like John Wick. But this guy wears a cowl, and it's hard to tell because he envelops everything within the Lego Batman movie.
Join me in a glass of delicious chocolate quick, won't you?
Thank you, Doctor. I could use some energy.
So, based on one of I think it was my favorite movie of the year several years ago, the Lego movie. Just loved it. We have some cameos from lots of other characters. Excuse me. And Batman was one of the cameos, and he just stole the show, which is why I think he's the first and maybe the only, I'm not sure, who will do a spin-off. So we have the Lego Batman movie. I did not like it much at all. I was such a huge fan of the original movie, such a huge fan of the Lego Batman character, that this was my probably most anticipated movie of the year. Really looking forward to it, and it just fell flat everywhere I could, and it could for me. And I think the reason is, even though they have the same kind of beat and demeanor, and certainly all the animation is the same, and it looks all bright and pretty, it plays like a serious movie. It plays like serious Batman and serious Bruce Wayne having a serious kid and having to deal with serious problems. And that's not what any of the other ones was fun about. I can't see that this would really appeal to little kids because it gets into some meatier, heavier issues. Ultimately, I just thought the Lego Batman movie felt pretty flat for me.
I did not particularly care for the Lego movie. Part of it is aesthetics. I really don't like things that are made to intentionally look cheap or $100 million movie that is made to look like the objects that spend more time in a kid's mouth than in their hand. You know, it's just like, what are we? This looks like stuff for babies. Yes, it was apparently clever, but I didn't really find the writing all terribly that clever.
Right.
Now I'm talking about the Lego Batman movie. So in the theater, it was pretty colors, and it was in 3D, and that was pretty effective. But at home, I guess you can still see it in 3D at home if that's still an option. But I feel like if I want to see a Batman movie, I want to see a Batman movie. If I want to see a funny Batman, I want to watch the old TV show. I just can't get into this super self-aware, winky comedy that are in these movies. So yet a lot of people really loved it. So what do I know? That's just my taste. Your mileage may vary. Speaking of vary, here's a movie I didn't see. So let's me give a whack at explicting it. Get time to kill. So Anna Kendrick stars as a jilted bride. Let's check this for accuracy. Anna Kendrick stars as a jilted bride who decides to go to the wedding anyway and finds herself with the unlikely mixed bag of possible criminals. A little excitement for you. I don't know, I didn't see it. At the dreaded Table 19.
A veg table, a maths table, a kitchen table.
So this is clearly, is Anna Kendrick strong enough to helm a film on her own? This is really kind of the question. I like her a lot. She's been in some terrific movies. We know she has a wonderful voice. She doesn't get to sing too much in this one. So this is a vehicle for her. If you like her, I think you're going to enjoy this. It's a pretty standard. Strangely enough, as I'm sitting here trying to think about how to get into this without giving away too much, not that it's a super thick or dense plot, in many respects, if this came out 20 years ago, Julia Roberts would have been in this role. She does a good job playing that kind of character. The clearly very smart, just kind of out of her water in the situation character. and so it's really a vehicle for her. Sporting roles are a lot of fun. You're right that the idea is that all of these people that kind of, for one reason or another, need to be invited to the wedding, but nobody wants to deal with them, are sat at table 19, and everybody at table 19 starts talking about how they've been jilted and everything, and it's time to get back. So it's a fun little plot. It's nothing super clever, but it's lightweight. A little language. I don't know if this is rated R. I didn't check to see, and I should have done that. But not that I recall anything. Certainly no adult situations, but no sex or nudity or anything like that in there. So if you like Kendrick, if you like these kinds of maybe a little bit darker, I'll say Gary Marshall-esque kind of a film, Table 19 I thought was fun.
So I'm gonna make it work.
Okay.
So one of the popular items that you give to couples on their wedding or a wedding anniversary are drinkware or tablery-ware made out of a certain type of hard, clear element.
Yes.
And if you were to craft an avian-type creature from that type element, you might be describing the film that you are about to introduce.
That I'm about to introduce? Well, if I were to describe that, I would say the name of the film was The Bird with the Crystal Plumage.
That was a tornado warning.
Yes, I'm not quite sure.
It was actually.
Okay.
So we'd like to welcome you to the Arrow Video Corner.
Yes, indeed.
This is a new release from Arrow Video, US and UK.
And what do we always know about Arrow Video?
It's going to look better than it ever has.
It's going to look better than anything you've seen before.
So Bird with the Crystal Plumage was Italian. There you go. Oh, it's always in the leg it gets him.
Yeah.
Italian horror maestro Dario Argento, who's one of my favorite directors.
Yeah, oh yeah.
His good movies, at least. It was his first feature film from 1970.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that.
He was referred to as the Italian Hitchcock when this came out.
I can see why.
And it's okay. So I have owned this film in like almost every home video format. I owned it on a pre-record VHS. I owned it on a Laserdisc. I owned it on a DVD, and now I own.
Because it was your huge favorite.
Because I'm a big fan, and every time it came out, I wanted the best possible copy of it,
Right.
and every time it was a little bit better. Originally, it was pan and scan.
Well, now until they like jack right into your head.
Again, after Arrow does something, it's like, I think the tale is told on how good this is going to look. Previously, I bought the Blue Underground version, and that was the best it had ever looked. This looks far better than that. I was watching it on a nice big monitor, and you can see the film grain, which is not a bad thing. You can see the richness of the color, which has never been there in any version I've seen before.
Okay.
It's a wonderful, to me, it's a giallo film, which was the term for Italian thrillers that were made in the late 60s into the 70s, mid-late 60s and 70s. And basically, this is the plot of most Argento films. Somebody sees what they think is a murder, or they see